right. Anna, what's going on?
Hey, pretty good. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you very much for coming. So
I made it.
You made it. Yes. Sorry about the mix-up. You
No,
know?
I'm sorry. It's my fault. I should know better. Berlin's funny like that with postcodes, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, how many other streets do you really need, right?
Why don't you find some new names, guys?
I know.
Why we got so many double ups in the city? Why don't you just make a new name? Do you like these names so much you need to repeat them? Yes.
I mean, how many letters are even in the German alphabet? I don't even know. It's like a lot.
There's a few.
Okay, there's a few. I would imagine a few.
Yeah. There's a few more vowels than in English, and then I think it's still got all of the same consonants as English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so around the same amount.
Yeah,
except
plus,
for like
plus a few more. I think maybe English is 26. I think German's maybe like 30. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds all right. So yeah, it got a little variety to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that right, but anyways, so how's Berlin treating you so far?
Pretty good. I love this city. I've been here 8 years, and I'm coming up to my 8-year Berlin anniversary in January, and I feel like I've lived here 8 years. But I love it, and it's my city, and yeah, German culture. Well, Berlin culture is my chosen culture for sure. Yeah.
Nice. And what brought you here to Berlin originally?
The vibe.
The vibe. Oh, okay. It's a lot of vibes in Berlin.
Right.
It's okay. What was the main vibe that brought you here? Like, oh, okay, this is the vibe that I need to.
The top vibe was when I visited here both times before I decided to move here. I just consistently met people who were experimenting with what they found interesting in life, and able to test their identities and test their different workspaces and creative outlets. And everyone I met was really open to talking about it and very inclusive and inviting me to things. And so the 2 times I visited, I was like, oh wow, people can come here and figure out what they want to do and how they want to do it, and it's a really supportive environment for that. And that was the main vibe.
Wow. Yeah. So what was the one thing, or what was the things that you like? It kind of took you by surprise when it comes to the openness of like people living their lives, or the vibes that people were in.
What surprised me, I think it's the non-judgmentalism, if that's even a word, of Berlin. So it's just how, and I think most people feel this in their home city. I think it's a standard thing that in your home city you feel more judged because you've spent most of your life figuring out yourself under the gaze of that space. And so you feel all of your insecurities of teenage, childhood, whatever, whether or not it's real, you feel judged in that space,
right,
more intensely than when you go somewhere else. And so, but Berlin is just so, like, you see people on the street, like the number of times something crazy will be happening, and by crazy I just mean not conservative, maybe maybe like something slightly sexual, maybe something a little bit artistically out there, and people on the street will look and then keep walking and mind their own business and accept that is whatever that person is doing, and not be judgy, not be snickering, not be rude, not be people are just very accepting of other people doing whatever they want. So I think that's the most surprising thing.
Wow. And then and you're from originally
Melbourne, Australia.
I
said that for your benefit.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh shit. All right. I ain't gonna imitate Australian.
Do it.
Really?
Come
okay.
on.
What's one that Okay. What's the cliche one? Let's go with that. The cliche, like
I think the one that you can.
Crikey.
Crikey. Crikey's a little bit more, but one that everyone in Australia. So if you can get down the pronunciation of mate, so saying mate.
Okay.
But we don't say mate. We say mate. Mate. We don't even say the T.
You guys don't say the T?
Nah.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you're saying this, because if somebody was to say man, I'm like, ooh, okay, I don't know sorry, do you need help, sir?
Coffee,
Yeah.
lie down, water. Yeah, no, but it's a lot of people were like, oh yeah, mate, and it's like we don't pronounce the T. That's the thing. So
Wow.
if you wanna say the Aussie mate, it's a mate.
Yeah. Well, okay, man. Okay. I feel I feel like I need to have like an extra nasal like passageway to say that. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Mate.
See, I end up making fun of it. Like
Mate.
I'm like, you know.
Yeah, well, you're getting close to, that's a Kiwi thing more. Sheep are more a New Zealand thing, but
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
well, the stereotype around Kiwis is that we have sex with sheep because there are more sheep than people.
Wow. Okay. And that's wow. Interesting.
Culture.
Yeah, culture. Okay, culture with sheeps and stuff, and I'm pretty sure they have their own culture with dealing with that. All right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you come from Australia, and I'm assuming Australia is a little more conservative than what you say?
Berlin, yeah, I think like where I'm from is the most progressive and liberal space in Australia, Melbourne. But
Oh, nice.
it's still in Australia, and so there's still a majority population of people who are, not. I don't, it's okay. So it's like the States in that it's a colonized space with a lot of migrants originally like from Europe, I guess. And
Yeah.
well, Australia didn't have the slave trade. They just killed the locals
Yeah, they just
the
kinda-
Europeans did
yeah.
in the US as well, and Canada, and then the Spanish did this. Okay, let's not get into colonization.
Yeah.
But
All right, that culture has been documented fully.
and I'm no expert, but my point around New World countries, which are colonized spaces, is that what happens is that there's all of this extra space. I think so. New World countries have more space somehow, less densely populated because before it was kind of like roaming tribes or just like less intensely populated, and then Europe comes over and densely populates it, but still it's not as densely populated as Europe, okay? And because of that, because the Europeans came out and were like, oh, we'll make this ours, it's kind of been developed where everyone, like in opposition to Europe where everyone lives on top of each other. New York's different, and city centers in Australia also different, but once you get a little bit out, people like to have their own house with a garden and a fence and separation from other people and privacy. And I think because of that mentality, people are quite conservative. The resources are plenty, and so people are financially quite comfortable in Australia, as well as appreciate their privacy. And because of that, there's quite a conservative politics that comes with it, where people don't want to rock the boat too much because their lifestyle is quite good. They see new immigrants as threats, and they want to maintain their comfort, and so they're not pushing things, and quite a lot of the population is politically apathetic because they don't want to change anything too much, and they're scared of change because everything's just fine right now.
Right.
So because of that, majority of Australia is quite conservative. Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's an interesting way. That's interesting in terms of like why it's conservative. I never really heard that explained before in that way.
That's my theory.
Yeah. I mean that, but it makes sense though in a sense. Like okay, they have something. I'm assuming they didn't have it before, and then now because they have it, they kind of just holding on to it.
Yeah.
There's a decent amount of that in America when somebody immigrates to America and after they get like something, then they're kind of like, all right, I got it. You don't have to come here anymore.
Exactly. It's like the kind of like once immigrants have been there for a while, they become the newest racists.
Yeah, right. And you be like, what? You are from the place where people are coming from to get here. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's like I love hearing like let's say like Turkish or Arabic like people in Berlin hating on the Ukrainians or hating on the Syrians or hating on the next wave of migrants, and it's like immigrants, sorry. And so it's like it's so funny to see because
Yeah.
they're comfortable, they've worked hard, and
Right.
they don't want their stability taken away from them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Yeah, but I mean, it seems like it happens everywhere. You know, here in Berlin, in Australia,
Yeah.
even United States.
Mm-hmm,
So okay, so you grew up there, and how long? Did you majority of your life you lived?
Yeah. Up until I was 29, and then I moved to Berlin. I did travel quite a bit, and I also did. I studied different cultures. So from a young age, I realized I had big issues with Australia because I'm from New Zealand, and as a New Zealander in Australia, learning about the history of Australia and generally dealing with Australians, like my parents were a little bit anti-Australian.
Interesting. Okay.
It's because Australians have a reputation of. Oh gosh, it gets so political, but like,
Oof. I mean, hey.
but I suppose just a little bit conservative, maybe a little bit. What else is there? What am I talking about? More, the history of Australia is very problematic, and also it aligns itself a lot more with the US, whereas New Zealand doesn't. And New Zealand has taken some very made some very loud kind of signals against the US, so not allowing US warships into its ports, which was very unpopular and quite a big thing to do. But no one really cares because Australia is so small and insignificant.
Oh shit!
But it's politically quite a shocking thing to do. Such a huge power to say no to it.
Yeah.
New Zealand was very against any kind of nuclear power and said no to US nuclear power ships or something coming into the port, and so Kiwis are very proud of that, standing up to the monolith of the US. Whereas Australia for many years has been like, we'll do whatever the US wants, Oh, war in Iraq, this sounds like a great idea, and so this kind of stuff. So because of that, I grew up with kind of anti-Australian sentiment. Also, New Zealanders are very proud of how the colonizers dealt with the indigenous people. And so the Māori and the white colonizers, they fought, and then a treaty was made. And so the relationship between the indigenous New Zealanders and the colonizers is way different. There wasn't genocide. There was fighting, but like the indigenous language is taught in primary school. And like passports are half Māori, half English. And so there's a real integration, and New Zealanders are very proud of that, and rightly so. Whereas what happened in Australia is horrible, and a lot of Australians remain willfully ignorant about it and still consider the indigenous Australians as problematic, like as unto themselves, like they are the problem, as opposed to all the history that happened and all of the horrors that colonization did and the genocide that happened.
Right. A
lot of Australians don't look at that and don't want to look at it and hold the indigenous people like, oh, they're unemployed because they're, they blame them for their situation as opposed to what history's done.
Wow.
So growing up, I had a lot of issues with Australia, and also culturally, it's like there's not a lot of traditions. And every time I'd meet a friend in school that had some kind of tradition, I'd be, and so as soon as I learned a language and saw that there were other cultures in the world, I was obsessed. And so I studied in primary school. They taught me Italian, and I loved it. And so I continued learning Italian and then Japanese all throughout high school, and then continued that at university.
Damn. Okay. So you definitely immerse yourself, in the culture, in different cultures.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get out of there.
I feel you. Okay. So, interesting. You said New Zealand. So, because I want to ask you before that if you're from where you're from, you said Australia, but would you say technically New Zealand or were you Australia?
Well, I was born in New Zealand. I was only there till I was 3. My parents born in New Zealand. My grandparents born in New Zealand. So I'm a New Zealander. Okay. But I lived most of my life in Australia. So I used to really feel uncomfortable about being Australian and really resented it. But 8 years in Berlin, I've started to embrace it. When I go back to Australia, there's some really beautiful elements of Australian people, and the country's amazing. And I'm very grateful to have had all of those resources and to be in a culture that is very friendly. to strangers, and very warm and very silly and very laid back. And there's some really cool parts of being Australian, but
Right.
it's taken me a long time to reconcile the history and all of the issues I've had with the space and, with being Australian. And yeah.
And okay, so I feel like some people like struggle with that, like when they come from one place and then move to another, and like sometimes those places have conflicts, like certain conflicts. So like New Zealand, Australia, and stuff. Like, did that influence how you presented yourself to people in terms of like where you from?
Oh yeah. Like for a long time, I would say that I was a Kiwi before I'd say I was Australian. But then Australians would be like, "You're not a Kiwi. I can hear your accent. You've been in Australia for most of your life." And I'm like, "I know. I'm just ashamed." But I've become more and more comfortable with saying that I'm from Australia. And like there was an Australia-New Zealand comedy show recently, and I hosted it. I guest hosted it, and I really felt like I reconnected with my Aussie and Kiwi sides, and felt like it was a really beautiful process of like bonding with myself and my roots. It was weird and wonderful.
Wow, that's so interesting that like that moment kind of made you feel connected,
Yeah.
But I guess maybe it's like the festives, and then like I'm assuming there's like other things that were happening that maybe you remember. Each of those like cultures.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it may have helped that there was not a single Kiwi or Australian in the audience. So I was like, I represented the two countries.
That's okay. That's interesting you bring that up. I want to go on that when it comes to performing, especially stand up, do you feel like it's more of a pressure when it's like your own people in the audience, like say an Australian person or a Kiwi, a New Zealander?
Interesting. No, I don't feel pressured by that at all.
Really?
Yeah, no, because I've performed in Australia quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
I haven't performed in New Zealand, but there's lots of Kiwis in Australia. So I don't feel that at all, because I've done my solo show in Adelaide and Melbourne, and I really like Australian audiences. It did used to intimidate me a little bit, but I think I've overcome that by doing festivals there.
Oh, okay. So you overcame it, but I guess it was something.
A little bit, because I do feel judged as an Aussie and a Kiwi that left.
Yeah.
And then who naturally gently shits on the countries.
I like that. Very gentle, not too bad, but gentle,
gentle droplets. That's gross. Just a light spraying of shit on.
A light spray of shit. Wow, that's more diabolical than full shit. That's that's premeditated.
It's like what is that? The animal Pepe Le Pew. What is he? Is not a rat?
Yeah, skunk.
Skunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a light skunking of the countries. So I think I used to feel bad about leaving it, about shitting on the countries, and because I wasn't feeling good about Aussies. I naturally, like, it was kind of that projection of like, oh, I'm not being nice to them and I don't feel good about them, so naturally they shouldn't like me.
That's okay. That's interesting. And because, definitely when you're coming from a culture and you I won't say remove yourself, but you're not there.
Yeah.
And you're doing stand up, that you are going to talk some shit. And then sometimes people in that culture might be like, hey, what the fuck,
Totally. And I think with stand up, but more specifically with hosting, and you're doing a lot of hosting.
Yeah.
I think it takes a while, like whatever you feel inside can come out in audience interactions very, very, like you don't have time to check it.
Yeah.
And so whatever you feel deep inside you can and will come out. And I think that was something that maybe hosting's actually helped. I definitely think gigging at the festivals in Australia have helped just reconnect and make peace with it. But yeah, if you feel ashamed to be Australian and you if you dislike something and you're interacting with someone that represents that, it's gonna come out.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
So
wow. Okay. So then going back to,
but do you feel like that with
yeah,
U.S. citizens in the audience?
Yes, I would say, because like
do you like how I say U.S. citizens? I can't say Americans anymore. I know too many South and Central Americans who are like, you can't. Why do you call them Americans? So I always say U.S. citizens. Yeah.
I'm glad. Yeah, that's actually funny because I've been doing these Instagram videos and like I say America a lot, and people are like, "Oh, well, what about South America? What about
Central?
Yeah,
oh, Canada's technically in North America,
right?" Or people like, "You Americans," and then someone's always in the comments like, "Yo, well, America is South America, and then we Colombians don't do that." And it's
exactly.
Like, oh shit, this is some okay.
Yeah, can you tell I married a Colombian, and so
yeah,
it's U.S. citizens and the rest. You know?
It's like okay, geography. I've got a D in that.
Yeah.
But it's like I am not the good representative for geography.
But it's more well, geography is political too, so it's more just politics.
Yeah, people get triggered and stuff. But in terms of me feeling like a certain way while I'm performing in front of people, like either I would say not American. Well, actually, it's funny. Not too much in Europe performing in front of Americans. If anything, is more of a connection because certain references and things like I can. It connects more.
Yeah.
But I would say deeper is like, all right, if I'm performing, say there's like some black people in the audience, I feel like I need to kill. Like I need to do good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like there's a higher standard for you, especially when there's like a few black people in the audience. Like I had a show here actually, and it was like one dude from Arizona, another dude from like I think Arizona as well. Mm-hmm. And when I saw them in the audience, I was like, it just added extra pressure. I'm like, I need to do good. Like, I need to represent. It was like, it's always that, even in the States. Like, in the States, I do mixed mics or mixed shows and things. And then if I see, like, if it's like majority, it affects your set in a way sometimes because sometimes it's expectations, so you may be fighting through perceived expectations.
Yeah.
And depending on who went in front of you or so in terms of the lineup. So, if, so a couple people, they did the act and they did an act that's like, you could tell like that the audience would like that type of act. And then you may not have that same act or you may not even feel like it. Sometimes you have a set where you talking about some, some other shit. So then you come in, you be like, shit. All right. Like, all right, here's one, right? If me, black dude, right? If I'm in, and I've done this a couple times, right? If it's majority black audience and I come in and I start talking about like say me, one of my exes was white, right? So like I have
sorry.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I have no problem with it, But like that's. See how I'm getting defensive now? I'm like no. I'm like no. Actually, I'm good. But
as soon as I mention like how many black exes I've got, it's like I start feeling self-conscious. It's like I'm not fetishizing you guys. It just happened. There's been a lot of nationalities.
I know. I mixed it up. Come on. It's like I had a big pot. I mixed it up. Come on.
Lots of different countries.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So I have a joke about one of my exes being a white girl and how like it was not really about the race. It was kind of like the paranoia and stuff.
Yeah.
That like she not too much paranoia, me a lot more so.
Yeah.
And every time I mention it, like it's always a sign. It's like distinct. Always like
white people are uncomfortable. Black people are uncomfortable.
No, black people kind of like
uncomfortable.
Not uncomfortable. It's kind of like a sign. It's like ooh, like like I'm talking about it could be laughter, and I say it like oh. Or one time I did a show, right? I was talking about I brought her up on X or whatever, and then I was talking about how I went to therapy or so after like the relationship or something, right? And I weren't. So the part of the joke is that basically I went in because I would still have feelings about her or whatever, but my first therapist was a black woman and I didn't want to tell her that I was stressing over a white girl because I just knew what was gonna happen, right? So I said the joke, and it's funny because in the joke, like I kind of show how the woman responded, the therapist, and there was a black girl that I know in the audience. She responded the same way. She's like, "What the fuck?" And I was but it was hilarious. And again, set going well, this and that. But I mean, I made it a joke at this point. I've done it so many times, so I don't give a fuck, right? Like, I ain't got no, whatever to it.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it is something.
Yeah.
And I've seen that with other people too, where like killing, then they say something maybe race related, and then that can like affect the room.
It really can. I like, because I dated a few different. I always feel weird, like African heritage. Like
just
black.
Say black.
I say black. I do say black, but then I always get a little bit like, because I'm like,
yeah.
Like,
or it depends on the country. If it's like, if it's. Was it African or was it like?
There's been Africans, and then there's been African Americans, and then there's been like African French.
Okay.
And then yeah.
Not to dig in your history,
No,
but,
no. But like, yeah, and even like African Australians, like, not that like percentage wise, they're not as well represented.
It's a far distance.
Yeah. But you managed to do that.
Yeah, we everywhere. I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah, we
I'll find you. Don't worry.
Even in Estonia, we still there.
Yeah.
Freezing our ass off.
Freezing. But yeah, so I have tried to write a few. Well, I wrote like 2 jokes that touched on, like I started trying to write a joke about like when dating black guys and them like talking about me being white a lot.
Yeah.
And like being like, yeah, wow, you really do like cheese. And I'm like, okay.
That was the surprise. No.
like okay.
Like, wow, you eat a lot of cheese. Yo, you got a lot of different types of cheese,
You're like all white people. You love cheese. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Parmesan, Gruyere cheese, all that. Wow, damn.
And I'm like, yeah. And then I have this other joke about it's a little bit like it talks about me liking rough sex and like how I convince people to do that with me.
Yeah.
Because people, like, men are a bit scared these days, and so like the strategy I have with different people based on nationalities, and
that's funny already. That's crazy and funny and.
But it's a little bit, and like I have done it in front of, I like always. It's like if you've got a joke that touches on a nationality and you're a little bit worried about it, like make sure you do it for that nationality and like don't ever not do it because that nationality's in the audience. And so, yeah, I have done that joke many times when there've been black people in the audience and it's been fine, or Ukrainians or whatever. Like but the thing is, as a white girl, as a very white appearing and absolutely white person, it's like how like if you could make someone uncomfortable, like what is your buy-in on the joke, and like what is my like what am I gaining from doing the joke? It's a little bit edgy, but it's like I'm not punching down at anybody, but it is sort of, like asking for domestic violence is kind of like already like an interesting thing, and then when you're bringing nationalities into it, so I do the joke occasionally, but it's sort of like I got other stuff that's more important to me. Yeah. And what, like, is this that important for me to say when it could potentially make people uncomfortable? Like 9 times out of 10 it hasn't, but I have like there's been one time where a dude did look uncomfortable with the joke, and I was like, okay.
Was it a black dude or
it was a black dude.
Okay. I mean, because this is a comic brain working, so I'm looking at it in a different lens. This is because even you saying it, I'm like, oh shit, that's a crazy ass premise, yo. That is hilarious by itself. Oh my, that's you can wow. I so want to hear it. Yeah, next time this come from a black dude. Next time you want to perform it, let me know. I'll be there in the audience.
Okay, I will do it for you. I do like the bit, but it's like, but you just need to and that bit about these guys that I was seeing kind of like talking about my whiteness all the time. I just sort of got to a point where I was like because often it's the white buttholes that clench the most as well in the audience, because they're like, "Oh, I am German. I cannot laugh at these race things." Like, and so I was like, okay, and so it's like, if they can't even enjoy it, then like, how important is this for me to communicate? So I've got other jokes that are easier for them to, and it should just be theoretically, I should just be good enough to be able to make people feel comfortable. But it's like sometimes it's like you just mention the word black, and the white people are like. Can I laugh at this?
Oh, wow. You know what? Because in America, it's like almost in United States of America, right? There you go. See, I'm listening. I'm trying. I know Europe is a continent, not a country.
Those comments. You're reacting.
Oh, them comments are tearing my ass up. Every 5 comments. Europe. You typical Americans. So
yeah.
United States citizen. But in terms of the race thing and stuff, right? Like even mentioning it, it's interesting how different audiences in different locations, they respond to it, Like me coming out here to Europe, even certain things from a race perspective is received differently than it is when I'm like back in like New York and stuff. Like in New York, certain places like New York, you say that and it's like funny. Could it be like, oh shit, like, yo, what? Like, yo,
Yeah. I noticed that actually at the Edinburgh Fringe. I have this bit where I talk about my tendency to date Spanish speakers, and then my tendency to date Middle Easterns. Now, I could also add the continent of Africa into that, but I just keep it simple with Spanish speakers and Middle Easterns. And but the joke, like the end of the joke would still work but like, you know, I just keep it simple. But I have this one line in it where I talk about my my tendency to date Middle Easterns, and there's this one line because I talk about like Iranians and Iranians and Israelis and Lebanese, and this one line does really well in Berlin because I think we are very integrated with these different nationalities. Like everyone, I don't know. Whereas in the UK, people pulled back a little bit, and it was all just fucking white people. Like it was all white people pulling back and being like, "Oh, that's too far." And it's like, mate, like, don't you have like a bunch of Lebanese friends and Persian friends and Israeli? Like, why are you you're pulling back, I think, because you're not that comfortable with those and that close with those cultures. So you feel like I am somehow saying something not okay about them.
Right.
Whereas like, I know all, you know, the Middle Easterns that I tell this joke to and that I speak to, they think it's hilarious, you know? So it's just like,
see, that's sometimes the struggle. Not, I won't say the struggle, but that conflict, because you know, even the demographic you're talking about, when you performing in front of them, they find it funny. So you know, you have an awareness of like, yo, this is funny because the people that I'm talking about in this joke, they laugh at it. It's funny.
Yeah, and like there's also like there's no punching down, there's no discrimination, there's no negative stereotyping.
Man, that shit for like comedy, like good funny comedy lies in between those lines. It just does. But honestly, this joke doesn't cross it. It's like, it's silly and it's not. There's nothing negative in it. There's no negative stereotyping. But the white people are like, ooh. You know, that's so funny. You know, you dealing with that because like. It's, you know, and obviously, you know, because even me hearing the premise, that shit's hilarious. And I'm like, I can see that being funny, you know, and it clearly is to the people, you know, that are involved, right?
Yeah.
But I guess you did mention something that's, I think is important, is that maybe is that awareness of race, like not awareness. Let me say it's more the experiences with race, you know, like America, that's the makeup. So it's always in shit that you're doing. So when you hear it, it's not like a shock or something. It's kind of like actually a refresher just to hear it sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
In a nice, interesting way, not like blatant racist, but like, you know, just race, you know, nuances and stuff.
Yeah.
But I wonder here or in parts of Europe, just because some parts of the cities in Europe is like homogeneous. Yeah, right. Homogeneous. There you go. Yeah, homogeneous. That maybe when you hear it and they're kind of like just taken aback because maybe they don't talk about it.
Yeah, or they just don't have exposure to those people, and so they feel like hearing about that is like they don't. It's like they don't have any. Yeah, they don't have the experience, so they feel like you talking about it, someone that kind of looks like them.
Yeah. That
maybe it's not okay because they don't have the experience. So why would you have the experience?
Yeah.
And what's your, you know, a little bit of like, well, what do you know about it if you're not them?
Right.
So it's, you know, because I don't know that culture and I don't feel comfortable with that culture or any integration with it, then you talking about it must be not okay.
And wow.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's there's got to be some, like, I'm sure there's some university paper written about it that articulates that much better.
It's a mind fuck.
Yeah, but yeah. And it's interesting when people pull back from stuff like that.
Yeah, but I guess it's just maybe a cultural thing in itself, you know.
Yeah. It's also like I do like I've got a character that I do that I haven't done for maybe over a year now, which is it's like an anti-comedy character that he sometimes performs at open mics, but he's my twin brother, and he's gay, and he hates women.
Okay, so
he's a gay man.
Damn, you be taking these risks. God damn. Okay, in Berlin, he just
Yeah.
That's funny as hell.
But it's like so he's this like macho dude who is very predatory to men. So he'll like be very sexually predatory to men. He like shits on women, just like dumb bitches, right? Like hates women. And he thinks he can do comedy because his twin sister does, and because he's a man, like of course he can.
Wow.
You know? And so that's the concept of the character, and I quite like playing around with this, like with the gay male space, because it's something that we don't talk about, that there are still lots of gay men who are very mean to women. And that misogyny absolutely exists in the male gay community, and yeah, they can be just as bad as like a nasty straight man, you know.
Yeah.
So but playing around with that has gotten me into some interesting situations where people, and just even talking about that, people will be like, oh, because, you know, the gay male space, it's like, well, I understand, you know, of course. And like, there's backstory to my character. He's been like gay bashed, and like he's, you know, he's traumatized as well.
Right.
And he's like dealing with his sexuality in this kind of macho culture, and you know, not looking at his feelings and taking drugs, and you know, but still existing in this kind of patriarchy hating women thing. But like, yeah, so like, yeah, it's like that culture is a tricky one to play with as well, and so talking about gay men can also trigger people.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn, that is, I mean, so many layers with that character and the origins of that character. Like, I feel like that could be like a one man show, one woman show. I don't know the mix. I don't know how you would do it, but yeah.
I have thought about doing like a split show, half my brother, half me. And that's I keep talking, like I've brought it back just in conversations recently, because I do think it's a really powerful character, and like he basically just like insults the audience and does these like really mean one-liners, and like gets everyone to like yeah, he's just disgusting. He's a bad person.
Yeah. But I mean, that's such a beautiful character. Like in terms of like the I'm just looking at it again. I'm from an artistic standpoint. Like I'm like, yeah, so many layers with that I mean, you know, some of it gets real and shit, from what I would assume, right?
Yeah, and some but also like I've had some interesting feedback. So I have had it where audiences are very, very upset with me. Like one or two people in the audience are very upset with me.
Right.
I've had people not even realize that it was me, and they thought it was like some really offensive man on stage.
And like they knew you prior, and they seen you on the stage as this character. They didn't know.
They didn't know.
Wow. Oh, so you got it. I mean, you got to do it. Oh my God. They didn't know you was that. Oh.
Yeah. Had a few people not realize and be quite upset and be like, that was horrible. That was what a horrible person. You know, you can't say that on stage. And like even had men be like, you know, you shouldn't, you know, men aren't all like that. You shouldn't represent men like that. I'm like,
those are the ones you gotta watch out for.
Yeah.
If they saw an artistic performance, came up to you like, we're not all like that. Who's asking? I didn't even give a fuck about you. This is my own art.
Defensive much? Like, what are you defending yourself from?
You go to an art place to just say that to somebody? That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, and then there was some like online hate that I got for it too.
That online hate is
just from one open micer in the scene who told me that I was doing get this, he told me it was blackface for gays.
Jesus, you know, sometimes it be like people try to add like a little statement that's like zingy, and it's like, nah, like why add black in there? What?
Yeah, like I'm sorry.
Yeah.
White gay man, has your family history gone through slavery? Like what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And also like it's just so like, and it's also like, dude, if you're a gay man who I think does drag sometimes, what would you call drag then? Drag is usually gay men dressing up as straight women. Like what are you talking about? Like it's drag. I'm doing drag stuff here, and that's part of your culture. Why are you bringing racial discrimination into it? Like that's just crazy.
That's wow. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a culture in itself, and it's interesting how in certain cultures, when like someone kind of represents it in a way that it's not maybe agreed upon, let me say, that you know, sometimes it can add like these weird frictions to it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like always it could be touchy.
Yeah.
When
Oh,
you start
yeah.
getting to around the boundaries, you're kind of like, ooh, I didn't know that was a boundary. Oh, okay. I don't know the fuck is going on.
Totally.
Wow. But switch gears. You go to you. Would you consider yourself a avid techno goer?
I guess compared to other people, like I am embarrassed to say that I do represent a lot of the cliches of Berlin. So I would say yes.
Okay. What are those cliches?
Like you know, partying with techno, probably taking some kind of recreational substances, exploring non-monogamy. What else? Generally, like being pretty sexually. What's the word where you slutty? No, there's a better word. I was trying to think of the good one, but there's, you know, when you go out and you sleep with lots of people.
Pansexual? No.
Well, also pansexual. Also,
Yeah.
because I identify as pansexual.
Okay.
And so all of these things are very like, oh my god, so cliche for Berlin. So in terms of like partying, yeah, like I love the so techno. The thing is, I was talking to someone. It was a friend of a comedian who was just visiting here. He was taken to a club the first night he got to Berlin, and he was like, I'd heard all these things about Berlin techno, and my mate was taking me to the club, and I was thinking, oh, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah.
And then he was like, but I was surprised, like techno. I'm like, yeah, techno's not just like the techno, it's just electronic production at parties, usually good sound systems and interesting music. Like the DJs in the city, you can find parties that have very stable, you know, time signatures and repetitive and not groovy and loud and aggressive techno. You can find that techno here, but that's not what I go out for. There's some really cool producers here, and like and so like groovy stuff where people are mixing in like all sorts of tracks, and yes, there's beats, and yes, they're using, you know, 2 decks or laptop and a mixer, but like that doesn't mean that it's this like basic techno.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I think it's important for you to mention that because you know, I went to my first techno party last weekend.
That was your first one?
Yeah, it's my first one. I was invited actually, and
which club was it? Do you remember?
Was it Creative?
Oh, that's right. We talked about this. Karte Blau.
Karte Blau. Yeah, I guess that's I think that's the place.
Yep.
And it's this band. It's called Pulsar Collective, I believe. And I mean, it was like live. Like I was getting into a trance. Like I was like really like, I'm in here. This is
music. It's good music. Just because it's like technically a techno party because people are produced like, but that was a full live band. You said?
Yeah, it was live. They was playing the drums, and they had like, you know, auto tune, and then the guitar, and then, you know, it was like, yeah, it was I won't say it was close to out of body as I ever been. Amazing. In terms like, you know, people were around me. I was not even paying attention to people. I was just in tune with the music and the instruments. I was like, I was not even drunk or nothing. I was like 2 beers in, you know, chilling, just like. Then again, there was a lot of cigarette smoke, so, you know, I was getting lightheaded. But, you know, that comes with the territory, right?
Yeah. And like that wouldn't put you into an out of body state, but like. There's just so many interesting spaces. What I love about Berlin is that the clubs often, like in summer, you should definitely explore a few clubs in summer because a lot of the spaces are kind of like playgrounds for adults. And there's a lot of wood. I know that sounds weird, but there's like a lot of like wooden structures, and it's like room to room and outdoor areas, and it just feels like a playground made for adults. And there's there'll be different rooms and just different spaces, and there's love and kind of this like kooky creativity in a lot of the clubs here. Or there's, you know, other clubs that are like houses with like multiple different rooms, and it's like you're in a house, but it's like all these different rooms that you can go to with different vibes. And there's a real kind of like, I don't know, sort of, and it's very creative and there was a different word I was looking for, but just different spaces. There's a real and often multiple spaces in one club. I went clubbing for the first time in Amsterdam this year, sometime in the last 2 years, and I went to like the best club that's considered to be like the Berlin club in Amsterdam.
What's the name of it?
It's called Shelter.
Okay.
And it's like underground near the main station.
Wow.
You actually have to go across like a ferry, and then like there's like this basement, and you go down under.
What?
And I went, and it's very cool. It's very cool. But I got there, saw the main room. I was like, cool. I spent the next 20 minutes looking for the second or third room. There was just one room.
He was very spoiled. He was like,
there's gotta be another. This can't be it. Like, what? Let's go around here. There's lockers here. Let's go through. No, that's a dead end. And seriously, I was like, there can't. And just like places to exist in, you know, it's not just about always dancing. Like people party here for 12 hours straight, and that's like not a long stint. Like people can party for much longer.
wow.
And I think 12 hours is a pretty solid stint, but like, you know, people will party for like 10 hours, and that's not crazy. And it's because there's all these different spaces to inhabit in these clubs. And so you can dance, you can sit and talk, you can be outside, you can have a drink, you can go get a pizza. Like a lot of clubs will have like food as well.
Oh shit. I mean, that kind of solves the problem right there. Of course you can like live there really like for, you know, a day or two.
Yeah, exactly. And like also, you know, clubs in Berlin, it's like if you lie down and have a little nap, no one's going to kick you out. In Australia, if you dare to be too intoxicated or restful, you will be escorted out.
Oh shit.
Whereas here, it's like you're in the club, do you? Obviously, the only rule is be respectful to the other people.
Yeah. Wow, that is interesting in terms of that techno culture.
Yeah.
I can now. Me experiencing it, I can understand like now why people go to it and they feel like a type of connection, you know, with like the other people in that space. So that's interesting. One thing I do want to talk about, you know, probably got like a little bit of time left. That's non-monogamy. You know, this is a I guess a cliche thing here in Berlin. You know, this is something actually it's new for me to hear it in abundance with everybody. You know, when you coming from United States of America, you don't hear that much. I mean, it exists, right? But, you know, but you don't hear people talking about it as much as they do here in Berlin. Yeah. So was that something that you kind of came across when you got to Berlin, or was it something before Berlin?
It was something before Berlin. I sort of experimented a little bit. Well, I was married in Australia, and we had an open marriage.
Oh, wow.
On some level. Like, so there's always different rules, but yeah, we would engage in sort of, I guess, like sex parties with other people. That was how we were open. We didn't spend time dating other people, but we would have group sexual situations.
So there's boundaries.
Yeah,
like
there was. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And so when that relationship ended, when I was moving to Berlin, I knew that Berlin has the reputation. Like it's known for being a space where non-monogamy is like there's quite a solid community of people that experiment with different forms of relationships. And so when I moved here, my outlook was, I will never have a monogamous relationship again. Why would I? And that was kind of my approach to relationships when I got here. Naturally, the first relationship I started, my proper relationship I started, monogamous.
It's funny. Just the universe was kind of like, well, you know, let's give you the other side. And
totally. And everyone I met for the first, I would say 5 years of being here, or even longer, like pretty much most people that I've engaged with have not wanted to be non-monogamous, and it hasn't been part of their culture or interests. Berlin does attract a lot of people who are not of this, you know, sexually experimental mindset. A lot of people have come here for lots of like jobs, like it's a huge job market, startups and stuff. So there's a lot of like relatively conservative, you know, all the people from Eastern Europe. They're not coming here looking for non-monogamy.
Yeah, they come here for a job and a visa. That blue card, they're like, yeah, I need to get this shit now, so I can bring my monogamous family here.
Exactly. And so I actually didn't find it very easy to meet people within that community. I knew people in communities and like kind of kink and fetish communities, but I wasn't really interested in engaging with any of those communities. And I don't know. And then I did have like a proper non-monogamous relationship last year that went very badly.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And then he was from the US.
Oh.
And yeah, but it went badly, not because of the non-monogamy. It was just that it was an interpersonal thing. And right now I'm in a partnership and it is non-monogamous, but I don't know. I've started looking into what oxytocin does. And it's like when you're like really kind of feeling very strongly about someone, there's studies that say that the release of oxytocin means that you're less interested in other people. And I've naturally, over the last few months, kind of just stopped seeing a lot of the people that I was seeing. And I've got less and less interest in seeing anyone other than my partner.
Interesting.
So I believe in non-monogamy, but right now, physiologically, I feel like my body's like, nah. And emotionally, like, they're always go hand in hand, how your body is and how your heart is. But like, I'm feeling it, and like physically I'm not, and I'm feeling it that I don't actually want to be with anybody else right now.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling, like intellectually I'm struggling with that right now because I haven't felt this with anyone for a long time, that I don't want to be with anyone else. Wow.
Was that ever the case with the other people? You felt it almost close to this level, like in terms of like the oxytocin and then wanting to only be with that person? Like they ever?
I'm not sure. It's hard to, because it's been so many years. With the last boyfriend, I don't know. I think I saw red flags early on, and subconsciously I was able to engage with the non-monogamy maybe more easily because I knew that there were problems in the dynamic. So it's like I couldn't fully trust the dynamic,
right?
Because there were issues. And then prior to that, like I'm still interested in exploring. Like I'm still, if we're together, like I think it's that whole thing of like, having sex with multiple people increases, like, obviously more bodies, more potential maybe for more pleasure.
Yeah.
So mathematically, I'm like, I'm still interested.
1 + 1 =
And if we multiply that.
2 × 2.
Yeah. And it is very stimulating having sex with multiple people together and being in that kind of environment with a partner. But yeah, I'm not sure if comparing it to other people, like, I don't know. I'm just in this new state right now, and I'm like, I'm all about non-monogamy, but right now I'm like, I kind of want to just be monogamous.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. 2 cultures conflicting right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like my logical side, because like, so I'm sort of looking into oxytocin and being like, okay, so maybe if the release of oxytocin like dwindles over a period of time with a partner, then maybe like what I like about non-monogamy is like, it's just like, stay flexible. Like just because you're with someone, if you start having feelings for someone else, that shouldn't necessarily be the end of your relationship. I think like love isn't finite, and so you could feel love for someone else and be still in love with this person and want both of those things. I think just sort of having this mindset of, if you want to have sex with someone else, that means you're not in love anymore. Like, no, I think that's too limiting. And I think that breaks down relations. Like having that mindset maybe destroys relationships instead of letting you go, oh, let's try some other things and let's look. And like, I still love you and I still want to be with you, but maybe, fulfilling this physical urge and maybe even emotional urge somewhere else while still being with me, maybe that's okay. And both those things can exist.
Wow. So
what I like is that flexibility with non-monogamy, but maybe, it's just about being able to talk about it and changing things as it feels.
All right.
Right. Yeah.
Huh. That is such, I mean, cause, like I didn't really, I mean, in terms of like, like dating someone and other people and stuff, like, I come from America, and I mean, it exists, but like, it's more so like if you're in a relationship, it's like you and that one person. And if one of the two people start, if there's any type of interest in other places, kind of like, whoa, hey.
Yep. I feel like Australia's got a very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. I would imagine.
Pretty standard.
I would imagine a lot of places, that still have that, thought. And again, I'm like, my peoples come from West Africa. I'm Liberian, so I do have family that have multiple. I mean, but that's like polygamy, so that's like different.
Or is it Bigamy. Is it just the dude that has
Yeah,
multiple wives?
it's a dude, multiple wives. So is that, I don't know which one is
Bigamy?
which.
Is it
Bigamy or bigamy, polygamy? I don't know.
Polygamy is, I think everyone has multiple, but I think bigamy, is it bigamy? I'm doubting myself.
Yeah, I'm not too sure,
Yeah.
but I just know like I have some like men that are part of my family that they have multiple
Yeah.
or so like that.
Multiple
so that's
wives.
like, yeah, multiple wives, yeah, which I don't know, maybe that's his own thing because not multiple girlfriends, multiple wives. So it's like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, yeah, there's like an actual, you know, they ain't like, oh no, I'll see you later. It's kind of like, all right, like, yes, okay, I'll make sure I got this for you. Okay, oh, yes, okay, yeah, yes, okay, yeah, you know, it's like,
Hardcore, man. That's so intense.
they're very intense, and it's, you know, it's no game. Like some of these women, like, you know, you know, they strong in itself, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like, yo, don't fuck around, like bring this shit.
Yeah.
Like, the guy's like, okay, all right, I just need to talk to. No, I'm the first one, so you fuck the other person. You like, hoof. But that's a whole dynamic in itself.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you've witnessed that, those kinds of, I think bigamous hierarchies of like multiple wives.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's because like every time I go back to Liberia, so I go visit like the village in which my mom is from, and there's like some, you know, family members that they do have multiple, you know, wives or so, and the way it's even treated is that of like everyone's all together, so it's not even like, it's not like a weird thing. It's just kind of like that's just the culture.
Yep.
So like, you know, maybe the two wives to the one guy, they interact, kids, and they're like, oh yeah, it's like, can you watch so and so, and then this is like, oh, when you experience, when you see it, as especially as a person coming from the West, you kind of like, wow, and it's harmonious too. So it's not even like a, you know, you don't feel like someone's overpowering. I mean, obviously it definitely exists and stuff, but like when you there seeing like life, you kind of like, oh shit, like yo. There's no destruction. Like shit is working.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Like this is just another way of living. Like this is possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you got that. But I guess going back to you know, the culture in America and the dating and the monogamous, and then you know, you come to Berlin and there's like polygamy and then all these other stuff. I'm always curious about like the egos and things like that. You know, because I think sometimes in relationships you have ego. And also too, you have undisclosed boundaries, I would imagine. You know, I'm not imagining, that is,
That's
yeah,
totally.
you just don't talk about shit and that shit. You like, you know, about this thing. You like, whoa, why this coming up at, you know, month or year or whatever.
Yeah.
Would you say that like with polyamory, like the boundaries are discussed way in advance before things become official, or is it like just kind of, you know, same way as it is in monogamy?
I don't know. I feel like what is specific, well, not specific, but more common in Berlin than other spaces. Maybe I haven't been in Melbourne for a while dating, but I do think that in Berlin the expectation when you start dating anyone is, hey, this isn't exclusive until we say it's exclusive. So I do think that is, at least in the communities I've sort of been around, that is the baseline expectation of like, until we have the chat, I can be seeing multiple people. And then, but then, yeah, having that, yeah, as soon as that chat's had, then I think, people either they go for this is monogamous route, and then I think people who choose monogamy maybe tend to speak less about their boundaries because it's like there's an assumption around it of like, oh yeah, this is cheating. This is like, it's a sort of the easy path. Oh yeah, we're monogamous, so we're exclusive. So you're not seeing anyone else. I'm not seeing anyone else. But then there's all the intricacies within that. It's like, hold on, does that mean that you're still seeing your ex-girlfriend and you're just friends, but there's still a lot of love there, and that's not quite reconciled? And how does that make me feel? You know, like there's still things within monogamy that maybe need to be discussed, but maybe because monogamy is such a, you know, black and white, considered to be black and white format for a relationship, then boundaries aren't discussed. Maybe. But with non-monogamy, I don't know. I think it's really up to the two people how much they discuss their boundaries, like, and how much is sort of, yeah, like how much you want to put out there. I think, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's more of a culture of expressing boundaries here, but I can be a little bit lazy with that as well. It's like I'll kind of say what I want, but only when absolutely necessary. Like, I'm not going to be like, all right, so let's sit down and get the paper out and talk about, you know, the list of things that are okay and not okay. Like, nah.
Kind of kills the whole, you know, romantic experience, right? Like
A bit.
Yeah, you want that spontaneity and,
Yeah.
you know, kind of like things flowing and, oh, how we get here?
Yeah, flowing, exactly. But like, but yeah, like talking, you know, I think a common conversation that I've had is just like, okay, so if we're open right now, what are the rules around that? When do you want me to tell you that I'm seeing someone else? And so sort of basic rules are usually like, if we can't meet up because you've got a date with someone else, don't lie about that. Like, tell me that you've got a date with someone else. Yeah, just don't lie about what you're doing. Don't hide it. And if I ask for more information, then let's talk about it. Like, let's, you know, feel free to tell me the stuff that I'm asking about. But like, also like, only when it's relevant, you know, like if you have a date with someone and it just happens that I was busy that night and didn't ask what you were doing, and, you know, or whatever, or, you know, I had a date and you were busy that night and like it just doesn't come up, then you don't need to go back and tell them, oh, by the way, I had this date. It went like this, you know? But if they ask, of course, but it's not about being like, oh, so I had a date this week. Oh, I had a date. Like, it's not about keeping a scoreboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it has to flow. Yeah. No one wants to be reminded of something like, oh yeah, so yeah, weren't that like 2 weekends ago? Yeah, I actually was on a week-long escapade in France with, like, you know.
Yeah, with 6 guys, you know.
You like, okay, you could have kept that in the closet with all the other skeletons you have there. Don't release it. Like,
exactly, like that didn't naturally come up, so why are you bringing it up? So,
yeah.
So I've been in open relationship dynamics where it's like the rule was don't tell unless I ask. And then like I had a partner once be like, oh, by the way, I had sex with this girl last night, and I'm like,
guilt was too strong.
Yeah.
Ooh, see that? Ooh, that it was a buildup. Ooh, he was like, damn.
Yeah, and it was like, that doesn't, like, it feels like you're telling me this to make me feel bad.
Oh, you was probably treating him very good, yo. He's probably.
And it was like, dude, like that wasn't natural, that wasn't necessary, and now I just feel gross. That's what, like, why are you telling me this?
Damn.
Like, if you want to talk to me about it because it was a traumatic experience or you've got feelings about it, be like, hey, can I talk to you about something that happened last night? That's fine, but just like blurting it out like it's some kind of like victory and to try and make me feel less important, you know, that's kind of how.
Oh, so that was the tone. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to ego.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And ego is like, well, I think jealousy is a topic that people don't talk about enough. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not a jealous person. It's like, do you know what jealousy is? Like, jealousy is just wanting what was happening, like wanting to have been a part of it, or feeling like, you know, maybe, basically it's kind of like FOMO. Jealousy is really just like, oh, I want to do that with you.
Yeah.
Or do you like that person more than me? You know, which is ego, but it's like, it's sort of self-worth and it's FOMO, and it's like, it's natural that everyone feels that. It's just how you process it and talk about it.
That is.
I did want to ask though, quickly shoot it back to you about non-monogamy. So have you ever tried anything like that, or?
No, I think anytime there's like a, you know, something that was considered a relationship or so, it's like with that one person, you know. So I guess it's always been like with that one person or so. And, you know, maybe just like my temperament in terms of like, you know, if I'm dating, you know, I date multiple and stuff, but like when it comes to relationship, it's like an actual investment for me. Like, you know, where I just don't have the mental capacity or emotional capacity maybe of like doing that with other people, you know.
I feel you right now. Like what I'm saying about my current situation, I'm just so invested that I'm just not, like, I'm kind of tunnel vision, and I really like what this is. And even when I've been with other people, you know, in the last few months, it's like, I've kind of been lying next to this other person being like, I prefer to be with my partner. No, but these people are lovely, and many of them managed to see this, but like sort of getting to that feeling of like, I actually don't want to be with anyone else right now. And that kind of investment, and so Yeah, I understand you.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, like, I hear it's actually interesting when people are like non-monogamous and stuff, like, because I'm like, just like, how do you have like the capacities to balance all of it?
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to how one views relationships just in general. Sometimes it could be like and it's actually funny because it's something that I I actually had to go to therapy about to some extent, because the weight that I put on relationships was like a little bit too heavy or so like that at a time. So like it's more about looking at it as a step to further knowing about a person or whatever, rather than it being like, because some people look at relationships as a marriage or something, like on something like, okay, if I do this, I can't do this, I can't do this no more, and time is very heavy.
Interesting, and sort of seen it as a prison as opposed to opening things up for you, like having this extra support and new opportunities to experience things together. Seen it more of like a restrictive space.
Right. There's seen it more as restrictions and or a life in which you can't bring some of the things you're doing into it. Which it's like, say for example, like sometimes there's jokes around it and some half true, but some is just like whatever. Like, all right, like say for example your time, like like, all right, if I'm dating someone, like my time is gonna be naturally limited to some extent. And I mean that's the wrong word, limited. See again, let's just say time is now shared with another person, right? And knowing how to just share your time with another person can be interesting, right? Like in a way that's official. So if you're dating someone and it's like steps of monogamy, that there's no label to the time that's being shared or whatever. It's kind of like whatever. But now when it's like boyfriend, girlfriend, there's now a set mark in the time we spent. So then from this point forward, it's more about like, okay, like, I'm doing things with my friends, or I want you to come, because you're my boyfriend, so boom.
Okay. Yeah. More social expectation attached to the significance of the relationship. So it's like, oh, because you're my partner now, it's probably a good idea if you come with me to this event.
Yeah, and if you really love her, like her, or whatever, that you feel obligated now, because now you want to. I mean, it's always going to be teeter on that once, and then because sometimes
you don't want to go to that Christmas party, or you don't want to go to that family dinner, or you don't want to meet those friends because they're
and vice versa. Sometimes our friends that they talk about, I'm with comedians, they talk about weird shit sometimes. So bring her, and then even. Because now she's my girl, so now I want to make sure she's good. To be like, all right, look, babe, like, my friends, they can say some crazy shit, and then, and then she's sitting there, maybe my friends kind of talking about, like, and Bill Cosby, right? You're like, you're like, yeah, he's a comic, and, just
grain of salt, just grain of salt. It's like,
just blink twice if you want to leave,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. There is this thing of like, yeah, I know what you mean. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I mean, again, like it's something that I think it's cool, but I think it's like also there's I mean, I guess for one, it's just kind of like just knowing yourself in terms of like, do you actually want to share your time with a person? Because sometimes relationship happens just out of a just sequence of time, like okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, it's been this long, so how can we do it? And sometimes, sometimes us dudes, we're not too good. Sometimes, depending on the girl, to say like no, or to be like, because somebody be like, all right, like yeah, let's do it, And then when the things start happening, which is not bad, they kind of be like, I really want to. I don't know, play video games or hang out with my boys, and then now, so then.
Yeah. It's interesting that division of time with people. Yeah, I think doing comedy, for example, it's so important it's been so important for me to be with partners that respect the fact that I'm gonna be like, I might have one night off a week.
Yeah, and then the comedy adds a lot to it.
And then it's like, if I've got that, and also the thing is though, I'm only available one night a week, like as a free night. So otherwise, you're meeting me after I finish shows. And then, but with that one night off a week, if we are something, then I want to spend that night with my partner,
Yeah.
And so then respecting the fact that, dude, I've only got one night off. So like, can you like that is a special night for me, and I'd like to spend it with you, or I spend it by myself and I like process, or maybe I've got a friend that I want to see or whatever. Yeah. But like respecting my time is very limited in terms of free time, so respecting that, and also they need to never resent the fact that comedy is what I do, and then I'm at shows.
Yeah.
So it's like if you ever are like another show, then it's like nah mate, nah, this is it. Like this, and like yes, I do take time off, and I've got like days that I have free, and I can take time off for like a longer period, sure. But like if you resent any of that, and you're like, oh, you don't come out with my friends, and oh, you didn't come out partying, and oh, you didn't. And it's like, nah, dude.
And that's common, especially as an artist. I mean, and then a stand-up comedian. Mm-hmm. That's a great point that you bring up in terms of that, because that it's sharing time, but then your time is actually limited. So now it's like you got to be very conscious of how you spend it.
And also, my shows are not really all the time hangout spaces for you. If you're coming to all my shows, that's my workplace, you know? Yeah. Like, I don't want you at my shows.
You don't want to see their face and then feel, it can affect your set sometimes.
It can, and it can just be like, dude, I love it when a partner will come and support me, but I don't want them coming to my shows regularly. Yeah, regularly. It's like, you know, I'm happy to come to your work drinks occasionally, but like, don't be coming to, like, why are you coming with me to work, man? Like, get a social life.
Get a social life. This is my life. You get a social life.
Yeah, this is my work, man. Like, happy to meet you afterwards. Love to meet you afterwards, but just yeah. So yeah, it's tricky as a comedian, I think, as well.
Yeah, well. I know you have to go.
Yeah, I got a bus to move.
Yeah, but where can they find you?
Find me at AF Beros on all the things, YouTube, Instagram. I'm putting together a sunroom as well, if you know what sunroom is.
Ooh,
do you know what sunroom is?
I think so.
It's like a monetization app where you can pay for some of my content. So I'll be putting more of my content that would be banned on Instagram because I say naughty things. So I'll be working on that in the new year and developing that. But yeah, also got like a YouTube channel coming out 7th of January called Estes Nonsense. It's a comedy prank YouTube channel by a ethical porn company.
Oh wow!
It's their safe for work content. So it's on the streets doing like comedy pranks.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that as well. But yeah, AF Beros, Anna Beros. Find me doing lots of shows in Berlin, touring. I'll be at festivals this coming year as well. So hopefully see you around.
Yes, definitely. Y'all gotta check her out. Very funny. Anna, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure.
No problem. And thank you for watching the Third Culture Talk podcast or listening. This is your host, Jan Yennefen. Thank you very much. Peace.